Former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani is joining me now for more on this. Neama, thank you for being here with us. And we know the message on social media also really kind of appeared to be directed at Pam Bondi. We haven't heard her response to it specifically, but as you know, through both administrations here, the last two, there have been allegations of politicizing the Justice Department altogether. But when you're analyzing this one specifically, what differences are you seeing?
Well, the difference here, Kana, is we're really seeing an increase in the rhetoric. And, I understand that Donald Trump believes that he was treated unfairly, but let's not forget he was sued civilly by Letitia James. Adam Schiff, when he was a member of the House, had the impeachment proceedings. Now we're talking about criminal prosecution, putting them in jail. And I understand that mortgage fraud, at least the allegations are serious, they're felonies under federal law, but this is really unprecedented, not something that we've seen. And I think the case against former FBI Director Comey is even weaker. A lot of the allegations are barred by the statute of limitations. We're talking about really conduct that happened in the election against Hillary Clinton. And if anything, it should have been investigated during the first Trump administration. A lot of that is barred by the statute of limitations. Maybe there's some false statements to Congress within the window, but there's not a lot of legal merit here, setting aside the mortgage fraud allegations. So whether it's Bondi, whether it's someone else in the Department of Justice, if they're pursuing these cases for purely partisan reasons and not based on the facts and the law, that's a huge problem, not just in our court system, but it really does undermine the public's trust in our criminal justice system.
And the public trust here is so important. So on that note, what about the allegations against border czar Tom Homan? The FBI investigating him for allegedly accepting a $50,000 bribe. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt asked about that today. She claimed that Homan did not actually take the money, but still any investigation into the case dropped. The investigation into this case with Tom Homan was dropped when President Trump became president. So again, on the messaging there to the American people.
Well, Kana's certainly a bad look if he did take a sack full of money, but it's important to note that at the time he was a private official. It's very hard to prosecute bribery cases in the United States because of some bad Supreme Court precedent. So here's someone who, at least at the time, was not yet a public official. He was a private citizen. So it would have been a tough case, even if Joe Biden had won and there was a democratically appointed attorney general. But again, bad look, obviously, whenever there's a potential pay to play scheme. But I do understand why the investigation was closed because of the challenges there. But certainly now, when you see Donald Trump saying that certain Democrats should be prosecuted, but not someone whose his borders are, I understand why people think that this is just politics and it has nothing to do with the law.
Important specification, though, the private versus public official and where he stood at the time and where he stands now. What kind of chilling effect, though, does a message like this have to a career prosecutor at the Justice Department?
I was hired by a Bush U.S. attorney, and then I stayed on for an Obama U.S. attorney. And obviously, there were changes in priorities, at least with respect to the border, immigration, drug and human trafficking. But we've really never seen anything like this, where the president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, is telling you to prosecute someone. Normally, the Department of Justice officials, they're supposed to be independent. They're not supposed to be swayed by partisan politics and those types of political wins. So this is something that is really unsettling. That's why a lot of Department of Justice officials have resigned. We've seen really thousands of them leave. And there's a lot of experience and information that's just gone. It's gone to the private sector because you have individuals who have been appointed simply because they're loyal to Donald Trump. And I understand that obviously the president has the right to remove U.S. attorneys and anyone really in Article 2, the executive branch, subject to some minor limitations. But if we're just really talking about loyalists here, that's not the way to pursue justice. That's not the way to handle cases. And I understand that the president feels that he was wrong, the way that the cases against him were handled before he was president again. But this is just really a bridge too far, in my opinion, and it's going to cause all sorts of problems unless cooler heads prevail and say, you know what, we're not going to do this. This is unjust, and this is not what the Department of Justice is meant to do.
Neama Rahmani, thank you for being here with us today.